It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Vermont State Castleton's head alpine skiing coach, Coach Christopher Eder. How are you doing today?
Good, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Can you talk about how you knew that you want to get started in coaching in alpine skiing?
Yeah, sure. Actually, interestingly enough, I never thought about coaching while I was racing. I always just thought about skiing, and even when I was in college, I never thought about coaching at the end. I studied business. I went to Green Mountain College, which is also here in Vermont. It's actually about 8 miles down the road from where Castleton is located. And I was a business major, graduated towards the top of my class in business. And so I was kind of focused on that a little bit. And after I graduated, I was, thinking about what I was going to do for work. I went to Europe for about 5 weeks or so, and just for, to travel. And I got a phone call while I was there. I checked in with my parents, because you're supposed to do that when you leave, right, on vacation and they're not with you. So I checked in maybe 3, 4 times. And one of the times my mom said, "These people from Green Mountain College are calling." And I thought maybe it was because maybe I missed something and I shouldn't have graduated. Who knows? But they said they want you to come back and work, kind of a combo deal. They were wondering if I would want to work in the admissions office, recruiting students, and also help out with being an assistant coach for the alpine ski team. And I thought, yeah, that sounds perfect. I'll do that for 1 year. And I got into the coaching that way, being an assistant coach. And I said I would do it for 1 year, and I actually stayed there for 5 years. And then this opportunity came up here at Castleton. And now I've been here. I'm in my 21st year at Castleton. So 26 years coaching overall. When, again, back in right around this time in 1998, I didn't think coaching was not in my mind. So
What was that experience like being a skier for Green Mountain College?
it was awesome. I think everybody, when they're in high school competing, they kind of have a dream of competing at the collegiate level, and of course moving on to like professional and all that stuff. But ski racing is one of those sports that, at least for me, I was kind of realistic about it. I knew that the dreams that I had when I was 12 years old of being on the US ski team, by the time I was 16, 17, 18, I kind of knew that probably wouldn't be in the cards for me. But I didn't want to just give up. I wanted to continue ski racing, and so I had that opportunity, skiing at Green Mountain College, and just being able to be a collegiate athlete. A lot of my friends in high school played football and played other sports, and I don't think any of them were able to compete at the collegiate level. So I was able to do that. So it was kind of special for me.
How was that experience like transitioning from being an athlete to coaching at your alma mater?
Uh, it was interesting, because here you are, you're friends with all these people, and all of a sudden you have to kind of be serious, and um, they want to hang out on a Friday night. I'm not allowed to do that anymore, because I'll get in trouble. So, that was a little tough in the beginning, but it didn't take long, because obviously as I got older, that I wasn't, I was able to remove myself from that environment. So it was tough in the beginning, but I learned pretty quick not to, not to do the wrong thing. So
While at Green Mountain College as an assistant coach, what were some of the things that you were able to accomplish?
um, I mean, for me, my really just being there, supporting the athletes, being close in age to a lot of them, I think was great, because I had a really good relationship with the athletes. I helped out with the recruiting, and that was helpful for me for the position that I'm in now. Um, and I think that really the being able to help out with the recruiting, and again, being there for the athletes, helping them out with just things off the slopes too. was something that I feel like I really contributed to the program. One of the neat things for me was I was an assistant coach for 5 years, and during that time, I coached under 3 different coaches. One of them was a former head coach of mine, or my old head coach. I coached for him for 2 years. And then the next 2 years, it was somebody completely different. So I got a sense of what that was like. He brought something else to the table. And then my 5th year coaching there, we hired a former athlete who ended up who was actually one of my teammates at one point, and then somebody who I had coached for a year or two as well. So I was able to learn from those 3 different head coaches and kind of mold myself into who I am based on that.
For you, what was that transition like going from being an assistant coach at your alma mater to coming to Vermont State Castle to become the next head coach?
Yeah, the transition was tougher than I thought it was going to be, because as an assistant coach, like I said, it was almost kind of all fun and games, right? I was able to do, I was kind of the good guy as the assistant, and the head coach is the bad guy when it comes to making certain decisions and stuff like that. I didn't think of those things when I was going to become a head coach. I also didn't think about all the behind the scenes stuff that takes place, because I didn't do that kind of stuff. Our head coach did that, scheduling, hotels, just all the paperwork, eligibility paperwork, all that stuff. I didn't think of any of that. I thought this was going to be easy, because I had done it for 5 years an assistant, and I thought the only difference was going to be I was going to get paid more. But it came with a lot of responsibility, and it took a couple of years. But now, I've been here, like I said, 21 years, and I feel like I'm a veteran. I got it all up here now. So,
What was that feeling the first time you came to Vermont State to become the head coach?
it was great. I mean, I knew it was going to be a great opportunity for me. Um, uh, Again, I had that experience for 5 years as an assistant, so to be a head coach, it wasn't really something that I was thinking about. But when this opportunity came up, I figured I'd give it a try and see how it goes. Um, so, the one thing here is everyone was super supportive, which was great. And we've had a lot of veteran coaches here when I started, and they kind of helped me out as well. And then just being the ski conference that we're in, the coaches that were there at the time were also kind of mentors to me as well. So,
Of course, what was that feeling like building the coaching staff around you and the players around you?
um, yeah, being able to, I don't have a big coaching staff around me. I got pretty lucky with a guy who was actually a non-traditional student here at Castleton. He just came to my office, said he was interested in helping out with the ski team. And at the time, actually, Castleton had a team back in the 80s and 90s, and then it got discontinued. Then it was brought back when I came. So I was actually hired to be the first head coach in 16, 17 years. So when I came here, we didn't have a team. I was actually started from scratch. So when this guy came to my office, he was probably about my age now. He was like in his 40s. And I asked him if he had eligibility left, because he was a student. I wanted him to actually ski for us, because I didn't really have anybody. I was going through the dorms looking for kids on opening day, because I had started here, and a month later we started classes. So they wanted me to kind of just find students on campus that had a ski racing background, and have them join the team. So anyway, this guy showed up, and he said, "Are you kidding me? I'm in my 40s. I'm not racing." And he ended up helping me out for about 15 years. And that was really good, because he had a lot of coaching experience. So I actually learned quite a bit from him as well. So I owe him quite a bit. And then I don't know, maybe about 8 years ago, we started hiring graduate assistant coaches here. So that's been helpful as well, to kind of build that staff now, and trying to pick the right people, every 2 years that are going to gel well with the team. And as far as building the team from scratch, that's been super, super rewarding to kind of look back at where we started and where we are now. 20 years ago or 21 years ago, if somebody had said to anybody that, that does what we do, this team at Castleton in 20 years are going to be national champions, they'd probably laugh. If you could have seen our team back then, we were, we weren't as fast as the other teams, but, it took some time for sure. But, it's super rewarding just to see how the program, where it's gone from day one to where it is now. And it's a combination of, it's an effort from a bunch of different people, not just me. I mean, we have, our administration here is super supportive of what we're doing. And I owe a lot of it to our student athletes as well, because they work super hard and, they've got one goal in mind, and that's to get better. So I hope that, I don't know if that answers your question there.
What have been some of the things that you've been able to accomplish so far as a head coach?
As a head coach, I mean, again, starting the program was huge, like I said, and going from where we are to where we are now. Individually, athletically, as far as those results, we've had, a number of All-Americans. We've actually had 48 women or 48 All-American honors for the women's team and 58 for the men's team. And that's not 48 individuals and 58 individuals. I mean, it could be a mix of, like, we could have one person earn 3 All-American honors in 1 year. So I would say we're probably more, as far as individuals between men and women combined, probably about 30 to 35 athletes have earned All-American honors. But some of them have been multiple. So that's why that number is so high. We've had national champions as well. We've had 2 women win individual national championships, and we've had 3 different men win individual national championships. And for overall, the total number is 10 different individual national championships among those 5 different athletes. So those are some individual accomplishments that I'm pretty proud of that we've had. And then as a team, our women back in 2020 won the slalom at the USCSA national championships. 2023, our men won their first national championship. They won the slalom at the nationals and won the overall. And then this year was probably the best year ever for our men's team. Just a couple of months ago, our men started off our national championships as a team. They won the slalom event. Then the next 2 days later, they won they won the giant slalom event the first day. 2 days later, won the slalom event, then won the dual slalom event, and then we won the overall championship too. So we swept the top of the podium for the men's team. So yeah, some team national championships, some good individual, national championships, All-Americans. That's things that we've accomplished athletically, and I would just say, I'm equally as proud as in regards to what we do off the ski slopes, in particular in the classroom. We have a number of student athletes with 4.0 GPAs, students on the dean's list. I mean, our average team GPA for both our men's and women's team usually hover around a 3.5, 3.6. So pretty proud of that.
Of course, as a head coach, what is it like getting to coach those national champions?
That's great. It's great, but it's also a little stressful because now, we want to repeat and do that again. So I know last year, back in 2023, when our men's team did it for the first time, I challenged them by saying, let's, you guys have done this and it's great. But now let's do the hardest thing to do in sports, and that's repeat, do it again. And they did. They stepped up to the challenge, and they did it in style this year. And, it's something that I tell our athletes, no matter what happens down the road, whether you were a freshman and you were a part of this, and let's say the next 3 years of your career, we don't win, it doesn't matter, because you're always going to be the national champion, right? Nobody's going to take that away from you. So, yeah, it's been great. It's hard to put in words. It's something that I know last year when it happened for the first time for the men, everyone's congratulating me here. And my answer was like, thanks, only took 20 years, but um, but yeah, super pumped, excited, and ready for the next challenge.
Of course, in 2018, what was that season like, having that historical season, being the first individual champs?
Yeah, so 2018, so just to rewind back in 2010, we actually had an individual national champion in the giant slalom for the women. So that was huge. I remember not thinking that was going to happen for a while. And at that point, we'd only been around since 2004 was our first season. So 6 years later, we have an individual national champion, which is great. In 2018, when it happens, it was, I don't want to say it was unexpected, because I knew the athlete that had won. His name is Paul Reckberger. I knew that he had the ability to do it, but the guys from the other teams were just so good. And I mean, the one guy that he beat, uh, he had won one of the events one day, and then he had a huge mistake in the second day, and it just worked out that overall, Paul from our team won. He won the slalom event and then won overall. It was pretty exciting. It's cool. I mean, we're a small university here. We have about 2,000 students on campus. We're a small town that has one traffic light. We're in Vermont. There's not a lot going on here. A lot of people think we're in the middle of nowhere, but for our skiers, it's kind of the middle of everywhere they want to be. I mean, we're in ski country, which is good. So it was a big deal when he won. I have heard stories of professors were watching the national championships on the live stream, and some of them were running up and down the hallway saying that, this guy had won nationals, and, he's a student in my class and everything. So, yeah, that was a great season. And that season, as a team, we ended up in third overall at the national championships. And there's usually about anywhere from 25 to 27 teams at nationals. So third overall is really good, right? But we were actually tied for first. And in that slalom event where our athlete had won, as a team, we came in second, and we were in second by, we were 0.04 off of first place. And so that team that had won was Babson College. They won the slalom event, and so they were also tied for first. And then there was two other teams tied for first with the way it worked out. And so when it came down to like tiebreakers, we came in third, and then two Western teams came in first and second. But that kind of burned a little bit for me, or it stung, I guess you could say, because in that slalom race, if our team was just 5/100ths of a second faster, there wouldn't have been a four-way tie for first overall. There would have been a tie for second. We would have been first all by ourselves. So, a few years later to go on and win, was pretty special, and that sting has kind of gone away.
Of course, what is it like getting to coach both the men and the women in alpine skiing?
Yeah, it's most of us ski coaches, we do coach both men and women, and that's unique because like soccer over here, we have two different coaches for men's and women's soccer, and ice hockey has two different coaches. So yeah, it's a challenge because you don't want to just have like a good men's team, you want to have a good women's team too, and vice versa. Especially when you get into like the NCAA skiing division, what everyone calls Division I, like, because the results are a combined effort, right? Here in the USCSA, we have separate national championships for both, but we do want both teams to be to be good teams and ski fast. It's great because they both feed off of each other. If the women have a really good day, the men want to have the men want to match that or do better. They don't want to be outperformed by the women's team. Sorry, my light turned off. And then, on the flip side, if the men do really well, the women, they don't want it to be about the men, right? So it pushes them to work harder as well. We train together. We have a really good relationship between both teams. The athletes get along with each other. We train together, we travel together. And our races are on the same day. So we're a pretty close-knit group. It's a lot of fun coaching both.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've built for the Vermont State Castles alpine skiing program?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, the culture here, yeah, I would say I think we've built a winning culture. I mean, people know that we're a good team. and I think that's great, and that's been a goal of mine. Um, our goal every year is it's the same, and I think this is the goal everybody should have. That's to win the national championship, as as far as results go and that kind of stuff. We want to win a national championship, and if we don't do it, it's okay. I mean, at least that was what we were striving for. I think there's definitely teams out there. Their goal is just to make it to the playoffs. And that's great, but the goal should be to win the whole thing. And I think that's the goal. I mean, that's what our athletes talk about from day one is winning nationals, winning nationals. It's not a failure though if we don't win it. I mean, at least we were trying and we were there, and we're in the conversation every year when people talk about who are the top teams for USCSA, or who are the top teams there, whether it's the men or women. We're in the conversation. If they list off 4 or 5 schools, Castleton's going to be mentioned in there, and that's something that's pretty cool. With our culture here, it's a fun environment that we have. We have a great group of athletes where we have a mix of student athletes and where they're coming from. It's unique because we're a Vermont public university, but we have one Vermonter on the team from the men and the women's team. We have a number of athletes from Europe. We obviously have athletes from the U.S., from New Hampshire and New York, and Maine and other states. And I think having that mix is really cool. So the culture here, I mean, it's a fun culture. We're a close, as I mentioned before, we're a close-knit group. Everyone kind of gets along with each other. Don't get me wrong, we have our quarrels sometimes, but it doesn't last very long. But I would say the winning culture is important, and it's important for our athletes. I mean, they want to win, and they work hard as well, on and off the slopes, in the classroom, in the gym. And that's something that I'm proud of that we have here, is that they're striving for excellence. So,
who are some of the teams in your conference that you compete against each week?
I would say some of the bigger teams, like in the East, Babson College is a pretty strong team that we worry about all the time. About them beating us. Clarkson University is another team that's pretty strong. You've got teams like Hobart William Smith, which is up and coming. They're over in Geneva, New York. University of Maine Farmington, they've got a pretty good team there. I mean, this year they were 5th overall at the national championships, their best result ever. So they're moving in the right direction. For the men, they were St. Joseph's College of Maine. They're another team that's pretty competitive here in the East. And I would say nationally, our biggest competitor right now is Rocky Mountain College. They're out in Montana. They're usually the first team when people say who's going to win nationals. They're the first team people mention, so they're a really good team. College of Idaho, St. Olaf out in Minnesota, Northern Michigan University. Those are some teams that we have to look out for. So those are some big competitors for us. And those are all teams that compete in the USCSA. The USCSA is the United States Collegiate Ski Association. And for college ski racing, it's essentially considered Division II. NCAA skiing is considered Division I. What's unique about USCSA is that all the teams I just mentioned are varsity teams. But in addition to that, we're also competing against club teams as well. And, club teams can be pretty competitive. UConn, everybody knows UConn because of basketball, right? But they actually have a pretty good ski team too. UMass Amherst, another team that's really good. I mean, think about the number of students that are there. Of course, they're going to have good skiers there and people that went to ski academies. And they have club teams. And really the big difference is where the funding comes from. Our funding comes from our athletic department. Their funding typically comes from Student Government Association. And I mention that because I encourage people to look at those club teams. I think a lot of people want to ski for a varsity team all the time, but there's a lot of perks with being on a club team too. You don't have to follow all the NCAA compliance stuff and whatnot. So, and sometimes they have a bigger budget than us, especially a place like UConn that's so big. They do quite well. So, but those are some of the main schools that we're competing against that we are always following their results and losing recruits too and that kind of stuff. So
Of course, what is that home game atmosphere like when teams come to your home facility?
it's cold. So, um, yeah, it's fun. For our races that we host or any races that are nearby, we get a good following there, which is nice. We get a lot of people from campus. The thing with skiing is that it's kind of a lonely sport. We're not soccer or football where people can just walk out of their dorm room and walk to the stadium and watch a game. They have to get in a car and drive to the ski area. Um, but when we do have that opportunity where we have races close to campus, we do get quite a few students that come, and it's pretty exciting. Um, a lot of times people don't know what's going on. They're cheering on our skiers, and um, I think that's it's a good atmosphere for sure. Um, but it's cold too. So I give a lot of credit to the people that come to our races and they stick around and watch them. And we're usually racing Saturday and Sunday. So the people that come on Sunday after they've been there Saturday, I give them a real lot of credit because it's cold, and you're standing out there, but it's a fun environment. A lot of the athletes' friends come to the races. The thing I think is really cool is we'll have people like the president of the university come to the race, academic deans or athletic director. We'll have other coaches that come and bring their teams. So it's a good, fun environment. And a really cool thing about ski racing is that a lot of the athletes are friends with each other. I'm not talking about, obviously the Castleton athletes are friends with each other, but they're really good friends with the Babson athletes. They're friends with the Clarkson athletes. Sometimes they went to the same ski academy, or they just became friends because we're skiing against them all the time. And so, I've had administrators from our university say, like, this is wild. Like, I'm watching a Castleton athlete come down. They just finished in second place, or they're currently standing in second place, and they turn around and they're cheering on the next person coming down. And I'm expecting it to be another Castleton athlete, but it's a Babson athlete. And then the Clarkson athlete comes down, they're cheering for him because they're friends. And that's just the kind of way it works. Like, you want to beat those people, but at the same time, you're friends with them. So they're happy for them when they do well too.
What
So
does what does that recruitment process look like? And as a coach, what do you look at in those prospective student athletes?
the recruitment process for us, I mean, usually students are starting to reach out during their junior year. Um, and I always encourage folks to come here and visit. For me, as far as like what I'm looking for, definitely looking for somebody. The main prerequisite is that somebody has a ski racing background. I think a lot of people think, oh, it's skiing, I free ski, racing will be easy. It's not. It's dangerous for sure. Um, when you throw gates in the middle and you're kind of being told where they're turned, then it gets difficult. So, and then you put in the speed and all that with it. Ski racing background is huge. I'm always looking at, there's a point system in ski racing. There's USSA points, which are national points, and there's FIS points. That's the Federation of International Skiing. So I'm looking at USSA and FIS points. Those are important to kind of see where they rank in the country and in the world, and where they compare with our current athletes. Getting video is huge as well. It's one thing to look at points, but I'd rather see good video of athletes. Training video, race video, all that stuff is huge. Getting them on campus. I'd like to get them on campus, especially if they can meet some of our athletes, because we want to make sure they're going to be a good fit. Good fit academically, socially, athletically. It's a mix of things. So, and of course, we're looking for people that are just good people overall. Not going to cause any issues on campus, that kind of stuff. Somebody that's hardworking, determined. When I meet with recruits, I always talk about the goals and the goals to win nationals, right? And I need them to buy into the team aspect of it. Ski racing is an individual sport, and I keep talking about the team, right? And that's the most important result at the end of the day is the team result. But how do we get there? We get there with good individual results. So, we need people to buy into the team aspect of it, and that's important. So,
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those freshmen put on that ski uniform for the first time representing Castleton?
um, It's pretty cool. It's awesome. Because I went through that, right? And it's neat to see somebody having the same experience that I had, because that experience that I had in college kept me in college. Because during my first semester, I thought, yeah, this might not be for me. I'm not sure if I want to be here, um, and just be in college at all. Um, and then we started training and got into races. And I would say 2 weeks into the season, I said, I'm here for 4 years. Because I just had a blast. It was so much fun. And I wasn't the best skier on the team. I wasn't the worst. I was in the middle pretty much all 4 years. And but I enjoyed it. I mean, I had an awesome experience, and it's really cool to be able to give that experience to other people as well. I mean, and they make lifelong friendships too. I think about the people that I hang out with now, or still talk to and text with and go to their weddings and visit, over the summer and stuff like that. I mean, they were people I was teammates with. I had teammates from Sweden that I just saw last year when I was over there. We all went out to dinner, and um, uh, you make those lifelong friendships. And one of the things I'm most proud of, and or I really get excited about, is now with social media, you can really see what people are doing. And so when I see somebody that graduated, a group of graduates, men and women that graduated in 2012 or 2013, and I see them in photos together that are recent, like they went on a cruise or something, that, like, that's cool to me. Like, they're still friends, and maybe I helped make that happen. So um, I feel like it totally went off topic of your question, but I think it's important to mention that you're building these lifelong friendships, or you're helping build these lifelong friendships. So yeah, seeing them in the uniform for the first time, it's something special for sure. And honestly, I don't see them in the uniform for the first time on race day. It's usually media day here when we take photos for our website, and they get excited and they get pretty pumped for it.
Of course, what is it like getting to see them ski for the last time as seniors?
Yeah, that's sad for sure. I mean, obviously they got to move on, and they can't be in college forever, but um, yeah, it's definitely sad. Because you really get, it's bittersweet, because you're proud of them, and what they've accomplished over 4 years, and what they've helped the team accomplish. Um, and most of them already have jobs lined up, or they're going to grad school. So again, you're super proud, and you build this relationship with them. You build a relationship with the parents too, and then they're gone, right? I mean, of course, we can follow what they're doing on social media, but it's sad, like I get a little touched sometimes, So uh yeah, I guess the word to describe it is, it's bittersweet. You're proud of them, but at the same time you're sad because you don't want to see them go. You've built such a good relationship with them. It's probably the worst part of this job, is you get so close with these people for 4 years, and then they leave. They're gone. I mean, they stay in touch, and a lot of them end up coaching, so I see them still. And some of them end up coaching for our competitors, and so that's the really weird part. Like, I see them for the first time wearing another team jacket. Is super strange, but I'm proud of them nonetheless. And um, it's rewarding overall. So
What are some of your future plans for the program moving forward?
that's a good question. We're not sure yet. I mean, there's been talk about us maybe leaving USCSA and moving on to NCAA skiing, and skiing at that higher level. Yeah, it's something that we're talking about, but it's super, super competitive at that level. When you're looking at the national championships for NCAA, only 17 men and 17 women from the East qualify. It's ultra, ultra competitive. But like I said before, like, the goal is to win nationals, right? Uh, and we want to ski at the highest level, so maybe it's time that we try that as well. But we're still in talks with our administration, and there's some other colleges out there that are considering it as well. But I mean, I think it's pretty early in the process. But right now, the focus is on just, really providing a good competitive environment for our student athletes. and to continue to just have success.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen entering their first year of alpine skiing?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
What advice would you give those freshmen entering their
Oh,
first year of alpine skiing?
yeah, the advice, just to keep working hard. Um, these are people in high school that are entering, or people right in college?
Entering into their first year of college, alpine
Oh,
skiing.
first year of college. Yeah, I mean, stick with the program. Um, uh, don't Definitely stay on top of academics for sure, especially the first semester, um, and start off with a good foundation academically. As far as skiing goes, just keep working hard. Listen to your coach, uh, and also upperclassmen too who have been there for 2 or 3 years, or even some that are in their sophomore year now. Who already have a year under their belt. Use them as mentors. And really, again, you got to buy into the team aspect of it, whether you're at the NCAA level, Division I, or you're doing the USCSA. I mean, you got to buy into the team aspect. So that's the biggest advice I'd give to people that are entering into their freshman year of college and ski racing. Again, really, stick to the program, and academics are huge. I mean, if you don't have the academics, you can't compete. So.
What advice would you give those athletes out there looking to represent a national team and make it to the Olympics?
Same thing, hard work, don't give up. Um, uh, we haven't had too many graduate from here and move on to their teams. A lot of our athletes that come here, they're talented athletes. They're really good. Like the ones that have come from Europe, it's super, super competitive over there in Europe. And a lot of them, if they didn't come here, would be done with ski racing. But coming over here to the U.S., it enables them to gives them the opportunity to prolong their skiing career another 4 years. Instead of giving up now, they could ski another 4 years and still, the sport that they love, the sport that they've been doing their whole lives. But for the students that are looking to make their national teams, definitely don't give up. I would definitely pursue. I'm not saying you can't do it from a USCSA team, but I think a lot of those athletes that are doing that, or that's their goal, or a lot of them are going to the NCAA, like the D1, the Division I teams. So,
What advice would you give those future head coaches looking to build their own program?
I would say recruiting is the key part to it all. And when people ask me, like, how do you get these people? Like, they think I'm some genius because I always have like a pretty big roster. Um, and it's really not rocket science, I'll be honest with you. To me, the secret for me is just replying to emails and being timely with people, setting up Zoom calls and WhatsApp video calls, and just communicating with them and being honest and telling them, this is what it's like. This is what it's like here. I think it's helpful too with us, especially with the Europeans. They can't come here and visit, to get them connected with a current student athlete that's also from Europe or maybe their own country, and they can kind of find out, this is what it's like. This is what it was like for me when I came here. I'm now a junior. Obviously, it's not that bad. So you can handle it as well. So that's, making those connections. Advice for coaches though, or new coaches looking to build a program. It's all about recruiting, really, and just building good relationships. Not only even with athletes who you might not, they might not be interested in athletically. I still, like, for myself, I still roll out the red carpet for those people when they visit campus, because you never know who their cousin is. You never know who their younger brother is. You never know who their teammate is. And if they have a good experience here, and whether they come here, that's great, because then they'll experience it all and they can tell everyone about it. But if they come here for a visit and maybe don't have a good experience, or they decide to go somewhere else, I'm hoping they have a good experience, because like I said, I roll out the red carpet for them all. And um, uh, they decide not to come here again, you never know who they know and who they're going to tell about Castleton, and it could be somebody that is a program changer.
That's
So,
great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the program app?
where can they find us? On social media. I mean, we have kind of a big presence on Instagram and Facebook. For Instagram, it would be Castleton Alpine Skiing. You just search for that, you'd find us. And then on Facebook, it would be Vermont State University, Castleton Alpine Skiing, and you'd find us there.
Thank you
And
again,
then,
Coach
yeah,
Christopher, for your interview, and best of luck in your future at Vermont Castleton as the Alpine skiing coach.
great. Thanks, Brandon. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Christopher, for your interview, and best luck in your future.
Thank you.
It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.